is Melissa Profit, and I am the Education and Communication Specialist for the Warren County Soil and Water Conservation District. And we also have Cindy Meyer, who is our Conservation Program Specialist. So Cindy is going to help me out today monitoring those questions. So again, yes, all of our participants signing on, you will notice that your microphone is muted and that your camera is disabled. And that just helps us to keep our focus on our presentation. But we certainly welcome any questions or comments that you have during the presentation. So if you type those into the chat box, we will address those at the end of the presentation. We are very excited to have this first virtual rain barrel webinar. Rain barrels workshops are something that we do every year with the district. And this year, with circumstances as they are, we are happy that we can at least still provide some information to you guys and help to get these conservation practices going. Because rain barrels are really cool, which hopefully you will find out today. Some of you guys maybe already have a rain barrel and are looking to find out more information. And some of you guys might be brand new to this. What the heck is a rain barrel? So let's get started there. So a rain barrel is a way for us to collect rainwater that's coming down. It allows us to collect it and store it for later use. You can have a single rain barrel. Typically sizes range between 45 and 60 gallons per barrel. Or you can also link multiple rain barrels together in a sort of a daisy chain to increase your capability to store that rainwater. Now, rain barrels, they have a lot of benefits. You know, when we think about storing rainwater, well, why would we want to do that? A major reason from an environmental standpoint to use rain barrels is to reduce stormwater runoff. So think about every time we have a rain event and the rain falls down, that rain has to land somewhere. It might be landing out on a grassy field where the soil can soak in some of that water. But a lot of times it's falling on an impermeable surface. So think about the world we live in today, especially if you live in an urban or a suburban area. We have rooftops, we have pavement and asphalt that is going to cause that water to run because it can't soak into those surfaces. That water gets diverted down into our storm drains. And that storm drain is going to carry that water out to your local stream. It also, if it doesn't make it into that storm drain, it can run across your property. You see in some of those photos there, what happens is as we increase the amount of water that's running off of these surfaces, the speed increases, the volume increases, and it starts to carry a lot of soil with it. And then we can see a lot of erosion problems. We can have drainage issues, flooding issues, and water can cause a big mess if it is allowed to build up in this manner. Now, the erosion, you can see in the bottom right picture there, that's kind of an extreme circumstance. You see the house with the porch on the stream bank. You can see heavy erosion coming off of that stream bank. Now, when we think about, okay, well, when we have high rain events, you get a lot of water in the rivers flowing. Well, all of this water that's running off of our properties into those storm drains, hitting those local streams, making its way into our larger river systems, and that's all contributing to this increase of velocity and volume of that water to increase these erosion problems. Now, not only does it take the soil with it, but it's also going to take any type of pollution that is on that soil or on the ground. When we talk about pollution in our environment, we talk about point source or non-point source pollution. Point source basically means we can point to where that pollution is coming from. For instance, a particular factory, or we can say this chemical is coming from here. But over half of the pollution problems that we see here in this country, the EPA has contributed back to what we call non-point source pollution. That's the pollution that you and I make every day. So let's think about those different types of pollution that we're contributing to this non-point source pollution. Sediment, right? That's our #1 pollution issue, actually. So all of that soil that we saw in the previous photos from the erosion getting carried by the water. When we look at the Ohio River's #1 pollution problem is sediment, all of this extra soil that's washing into the waterways. Now, all of this soil causes several different problems. For one, let's think about the river as an ecosystem. Things live in the river. So when you have animals such as fish that use a gill body part, well, these gills can get clogged with soil and it actually can cause fish die-offs. It causes issues for other aquatic animals that are in the stream system. But it also makes it hard for us to utilize that water for drinking water. The Ohio River can provide drinking water for millions of people here in Ohio. And when it gets all of this sediment pollution in it, it actually makes it more difficult for us to sterilize and clean that water to make it safe for drinking. So that's a big problem. But we also have these other listed pollution issues. Think about anything you're spraying on plants on your lawn, be it pesticides or fertilizers. Now, with fertilizers, a lot of it will come down to how we apply the fertilizer, right? Are we doing it correctly? Because it's going to help our plants to grow. But the plants only need so much fertilizer, which means that if we over apply or we apply right before a rain event, all of that extra fertilizer that's just setting on our lawns or is not being used by the plants, when we have a rain event, that's all getting washed away down the storm drains into our waterways. This contributes to problems that we might hear about on the news, like algae blooms. If you guys have up at Lake Erie, there's a lot of issues going on with algae blooms, and that's because we get these nutrients, all these fertilizers, well, they help algae to grow rapidly in the water system. And what happens is that as that algae dies off, it actually uses up the dissolved oxygen that's in our waterways. And then there's not that dissolved oxygen for other organisms that rely on that oxygen in the water. Also household chemicals, even down to our pet waste. So for those of you who have dogs, we encourage to clean up after our pets when you're walking. Not only is it just a courtesy to our community members, but you will see a lot of aquariums in different places really push this issue of cleaning up pet waste, because when that gets into our waterways, again, we see bacterial problems start and even nutrient loads. So we have a lot of different pollution that can get into our waterways. Now, there are steps that we can take to address these different pollution issues. But for you, simply installing a rain barrel can help reduce all of these different pollutants. Because what the rain barrel does is it slows down the amount of water that's causing the runoff that can carry all of these different pollutions into our waterways. It also helps to conserve water and conserve your money. And I don't know about you, but I think we all are always looking for ways to save money. When we think about how we use our water around our property, whether you're watering your flowers or watering your garden, municipal water systems account about 40% of this domestic water consumption is from these practices that we do. And so especially during our high water use months, like the summer here in Ohio, when we're using a lot more water because it's the drier season outside, well, by using water that we've collected and stored in our rain barrels, we're not now using so much water out of the municipal system. And then our water bill is a little lower as well. Now, we can use that rainwater for lots of things. Again, that watering of our lawn and garden, this is just the natural rainwater. So it's great because it's what would have been watering the garden anyways on a rainy day. But we have a little bit of control and we can water it when our plants need it. You can also use this water for different washing. You can wash your windows, you can wash your cars. I've even had people tell me that they like to wash their hair with rain barrel water, that it makes their hair softer. If you're doing that though, big thing to notice though is it's not for human consumption. This is not water that you want to go fill your drinking bottle out, up with. It is not water that has been sterilized or filtered, so we don't want to consume the water. In fact, with a lot of the kits that you get to create rain barrels on your own, which we will talk about here in a minute, it will come with labels that you can stick on your barrel just in case you need that extra reminder of don't drink the rain barrel water. But it is very useful for a lot of different things. Now, okay, so we've got the benefits of rain barrels. We know why we want to use them. But how much water can a rain barrel collect? Well, mathematicians have helped us out with this, and we have some formulas that we can use to do these calculations. So here's an example, right? First, we have to know, well, what is the size of the area that's causing the runoff? So in the case of rain barrels, it's often our roof. The roof is that impermeable surface that the water is going to run off of into our gutters down into our rain barrels. So for instance, if you have 1,000 square foot roof, then when you have an inch of rain event, that can produce approximately 600 gallons of water. So a lot of water can be running off of our houses. Now I'm going to throw some more math at you, all right? But the good news is that I can provide these formulas for you guys after the webinar, so you don't have to try to memorize this. And it looks complicated, but we can break it down for you a little bit. So when we look at this equation, you've got your volume, and that is going to be what you're going to use to determine, okay, what volume of rain barrel or how many rain barrels would I need for a certain area of placement. So the volume of the rain barrel is going to equal that roof surface area, and then you're going to multiply that, and that's going to be in square foot. You're going to multiply that by your rainfall. But in this equation, notice that rainfall is in feet and not in inches. So a lot of times when we talk about rainfall events, we're getting it in inches. We do have to convert those inches to feet to plug into this formula. Now there is a consistent for losses to the system. So that's at 0.9. And that's because you're gonna have some cracks, you're gonna have some evaporation. It's not a perfect closed system. So we have to account for a little bit of loss when thinking about how much rain can we collect. And then there is a conversion factor of 7.5 because we're taking cubic feet from the square footage of our roof plus the foot of rainfall, and we have to convert that to gallons per cubic feet. So to look at another example, what we can really do with this is we can say, okay, if I get a 60-gallon rain barrel, then I know that it can handle approximately a half-inch rainfall event if it's connected to a downspout where the roof is giving us about 215 square feet. So when we think about installing rain barrels on our property, we have to think about, well, which downspout do we want to attach our rain barrel to? Because that's what's feeding the water into our barrel. So you have to look at your roof and look at how it's sectioned off, which way the different pitch of your roof is. And then you can kind of estimate, okay, well, for this particular downspout, it's this area of roof that's going to be contributing water to my barrel. And it can give you an idea of what size barrel you might place in that area, or if you need multiple barrels. And it just really depends on what are you going to be using the rain barrel water for, and how much do you want to have stored in on hand. So besides which downspout, there's some other things to consider when we think about, well, where are we going to place this barrel? Now, for the rain barrel, we want it on a sturdy raised surface. The reason that we say a raised surface is we have to think about pressure, right? When you're just looking at a rain barrel, gravity is what's going to be giving you your water pressure. So if you're wanting to hook a hose to your rain barrel to then water a garden that's away from the rain barrel, if you have an elevated rain barrel, you're going to get more water pressure passively. The more full your barrel is, the more pressure you're going to get, but also increasing in raising that barrel, it's going to help increase your pressure. For some folks, if you have like a timed system or an irrigated garden watering system, you can choose to put a submersible water pump in your rain barrel to help increase that pressure. But if you just have a passive system, then raising that can help increase your pressure, as well as helping if you want to put a watering can under your spigot, it allows for you to have the space to do that. And that will make sense when we get into, well, what are the parts and components of the rain barrel? Concrete or cement blocks can work really well. When we think about which drain or which downspout rather we're going to put the rain barrel on, we can also think about that from an environmental standpoint as well. Think about those hard impermeable surfaces we talked about. If you have a downspout that is pointing towards your driveway, which is going straight out to the gutter and down the storm drain, Placing a rain barrel there can have a bigger environmental impact because it's reducing the stormwater flow going directly into that storm drain, as opposed to say a drain that's already running into a grassy area and allowing that surface to kind of soak in some of that water. So that's something else that you can consider when you're thinking, well, where am I going to place my rain barrel? Some safety considerations of rain barrels. A lot of times people are worried about mosquito breeding. Whenever we're thinking, okay, water, stationary water in one spot, with a closed rain barrel system. Now, those are the kind of rain barrels that we are actually getting from our suppliers, and they are a rain station rain barrel. And with rain station rain barrels, they have a lid that goes on them. So you've got that lid on the top. It's a domed lid to encourage water to run off the top of it. If you're using a different type of a barrel, which there's lots of different options out there that we will look at, you might have one that has a little lip on the top of that barrel that a little bit of water could start pooling. You can drill a little hole through that lip to allow it to drain out. Some styles also do not hook into your downspout, but rather the downspout just drops into an open top of the barrel. If you choose to put an open top barrel, we really recommend you putting a fine mesh covering on top to prevent the mosquitoes from getting in there and breeding. Other things with the rain station, the closed system rain barrels that we have, because of the way it attaches to your downspout, which we will see, when it overflows, the overflow will just continue down your downspout and discharge wherever that downspout is pointing. However, if you cut off your downspout and put an open top rain barrel in, if your rain barrel overflows, is it going to overflow next to your house foundation? Because water, just like it can erode away our stream banks, over time, it's going to weather and break down the concrete foundation of your house. So you do want to be careful about where the water is going to overflow to. These are heavy. So a full rain barrel can weigh over 400 pounds. Now, I just said you should elevate it, right? Because that's going to give you more pressure. But one thing to think about is if you're elevating it, you need to be able to do it in a secure manner. You can use bungee cords to secure it. You can make sure that your platform is wider than the base of your barrel so that it's very secure. You also want to make sure that if you have children or pets, that they can't be jumping up on the barrel. Even though it's heavy and it's 400 pounds, it can still tip. And if that falls, well, can cause injury. As an environmental educator, I'm all about children playing outside, but the rain barrel should not be part of the naturescape play area if you have children at home. Maintenance. So we know why the rain barrel is good. Okay, we know where we want to put it. We've got it hooked up. Now what do we do? There is a little bit of maintenance that goes with rain barrels, but it's pretty minimal considering. Biggest thing with your rain barrel as far as maintenance goes is inspecting all of the different parts, right? So in this picture, this is a few pieces that we're going to look at that come in what's called a diverter kit. Diverter kits are ways that you can turn different types of containers into a rain barrel. So you've got hoses, you've got plugs, and these are rubber. You know, they hold up for a long time, but over time they can start to crack or break. If you don't have good seals, then your rain barrel is not going to work appropriately. So you may have to replace single pieces of the system over time. But generally, you're just inspecting to make sure everything is good and secure and stem fitting. You also have to think about, well, where's the water coming from to my rain barrel? So if there's a lot of debris on the roof, a lot of debris in the gutters or downspouts, that can impact your rain barrel. If any of you out there are like me, I know when it comes time to cleaning my gutters, that is not a job that I'm looking forward to. However, because I want the benefits of my rain barrel, it's kind of an extra motivator for me to make sure that I'm staying top of keeping my gutters clean. You also can check the entrance to the rain barrel. So in this picture here, this is showing how that rain station style closed system, you can see the hose that is connected into the downspout there. You just want to occasionally make sure that there's not obstructions in there that would be preventing water from getting into your rain barrel. And also check the top of that rain barrel for any leaks or for that seal. Now with these rain station rain barrels, you might have noticed in the very first picture that I had up at the beginning of the presentation, these tops can actually turn over and you can plant flowers and things in the tops. It makes your rain barrel really beautiful. It's another place to plant flowers. So that is another option with these rain barrels. But even if you do that, you still want to make sure that that seal around there, that you're not allowing things to get into the barrel. Again, all those little pieces. Your overflow pipe is my spigot working correctly that I'm going to use to get the water back out of my barrel. Any accessories? Do I have multiple barrels that are linked together? I'm just going to check those hoses to make sure that everything's working properly. But other than that, your rain barrel system is just going to collect rain for your use. Here in Ohio, we do have to think about winter prep. Obviously, our winters can get pretty cold where we're going to have freezing. What we recommend is that in the winter, you actually disconnect your rain barrel from your downspout. You will get pieces in your diverter kit that actually will plug up your downspout for the winter time. This piece, what I recommend is have a place in your garage or a shed that you kind of store it, because it happens to sometimes just walk off and then you can't find it come winter time when you're trying to winterize your rain barrel system. So just kind of have a place for it. But again, if it were to become lost, these individual pieces of the kits can be purchased. I think that particular piece is like $6 to $8 on its own. We recommend that you either empty the barrel completely and leave your spigot open, or some folks do choose to maintain it at about half full. You just want to make sure that the amount of water that's in your barrel is enough that it's not going to freeze easily. I tend to just empty mine to make it easier. Again, when you take the barrel off, especially if you have an open top system where the downspout was just draining into the barrel, think about, well, if I remove the barrel, where is that water now going for the duration of the winter? You want to make sure that wherever that water flow is now going, if it's not to the barrel, is it going to cause erosion issues? Is it going to impact my foundation? Now, here at the Soil and Water Conservation District, we would be amiss if we didn't point out a couple of other ways that we can help to control this non-point pollution, right? Rain barrels are an excellent, excellent way, but there are some other things that we can do. Think about that sedimentation, right? That #1 pollution problem, all the soil getting washed away. Well, a lot of the soil gets washed away because it's left bare. So we like to encourage people to cover your bare soil, right? You can plant native plants that are already conditioned climate. They're really low maintenance plants. We talk about cover crops a lot in the soil and water world. And a lot of times we might be talking with farmers who are planting cover crops over acres and acres of fields after crops have been harvested. Well, we can also do that in our own gardens at home. You know, a lot of times when we have harvested from our garden, we might have these bare patches. You can plant annual grasses or clovers or different grains, because these plants are going to help to hold the soil in place. And it's going to make your garden healthier as well, because it's going to help to hold on to that topsoil where a lot of those valuable nutrients are. If you have a landscape where you have really steep slopes somewhere, the steeper the slope, the faster water can run down it, right? And the faster that water moves, the more erosion it's going to cause. So you can even do some landscaping things like terracing your landscape, because that's going to slow that water flow down, reduce that erosion problem. If there's areas on your property where you do have drainage or erosion issues, these can be tools to help you solve those problems. Even the rain barrel, just again, reducing the amount of water flowing over that area. Also think about the surfaces that are on your property. You know, do you have a big concrete slab, or can you find ways to do gravel walkways or gravel and sand around those concrete areas? Gravel and sand are going to allow that water to soak in more than that impermeable concrete. Rain gardens are also another great way to help with this type of an issue. So a rain garden is a special type of a garden that you're going to plant in the path of all that water that's running on your property. And the rain garden is designed to slow down the water and let it infiltrate down into the soil. So the basic shape of a rain garden is kind of like a bowl, right? So that it allows that water to catch and to soak in. Plus, rain gardens can be very, very beautiful. Here's an example of some. You know, you can get creative with the design. You can plant native plants that are going to provide good homes for pollinators. And there's a lot of benefits to rain gardens. However, since we're not actually talking about rain gardens today, I do want to let you know that we are going to be talking about rain gardens next month. So I hope that you can also join us for another webinar next month on July 28th, where we're going to be talking about rain garden design and installation. You can find details and sign up for that free webinar on our website at warrenswcd.com. So if you're interested in learning more about rain gardens, that's the place that you can do it. We're talking about rain barrels today. So here's another example of linked barrels. You can see there where they are raised up, right? And they get a lot more pressure, and you can have a whole irrigation system set up. So when we think about, okay, I want to build a rain barrel. Well, you can see in the picture here that there are several different containers that you could choose to use for your rain barrel. What you want to really think about is, for one, if you're going to make, say, a wooden rain barrel, right, or a rain barrel that has metal components, you do want to think about rust and the effect of water being held in those containers. How long is that barrel going to last you? Also, you can find repurposed drum barrels. So you see that blue barrel in that bottom corner there, that's a 55-gallon drum. A lot of times you want to make sure that these are food grade, because then you know that they are safe for catching water. A lot of times when we do our in-person rain barrel workshops, typically, these are the type of barrels that we are converting during the workshop. We use the diverter kits that you can see pictured on the one side of your screen, and we use those 55-gallon drum barrels. A lot of times if they have been used to hold any type of a food or vinegar, you know, you just have to rinse out that barrel and then it's ready to catch rain. But there's a lot of different options that you can get creative with. Basically, what is the size, right? And how it to my downspout. In the diverter kits that you can get, behind it is a popular diverter kit. It comes with everything that you need to turn one of these containers into a rain barrel. You can see that it has the connections to hook into your downspout, but it also comes with the drill bits that you need to make the holes in the container so that you can get a secure, snug fit with the spigot and the hose pieces. So I think that's one of the really valuable components of these diverter kits, is those drill bits, so that you know exactly that you're going to have the right size hole for the pieces that you're adding to your barrel. Earth-minded diverter kits you can get at many different retail stores. Depot sells them, Menards sell them, Amazon sells them. I've seen them anywhere between $30 to $50, so it just depends on which retailer you go through as far as purchasing those kits. So here's some pictures from past in-person workshops that we have done. So you can see there, those drill bits just attached to your typical power drill. There are instructions about how far up those drill holes should be placed and whether or not you're going to place it on the right side of your barrel or the left side of your barrel. And that's going to determine on, well, what side of your downspout are you putting it on. So it's important before you start to drill into your rain barrel that you know where it's going to go in relation to your downspout, because that's going to affect what side of the barrel you're going to be drilling on. Now, Butler SWCD, which is our colleagues in Butler County, they have a great educator named Lynn White. I do a lot of programs with her, and they made a really great video. So it's only about 2 minutes long, and I'm going to share that with you. And these are the steps that we would take in our in-person workshops. So let me switch my screens here. All right. Cindy, can you shake your head? Am I good? Okay, awesome. You can see, so that is the earth-minded diverter kit there. And so those are the different size of the drill bits that you need. This is for measuring for your first spigot. And this is a tip that we always point out as well. Because of the type, if you get a drum barrel, you don't want to drill into the ridge there. So you're actually going to go a little bit below what the instructions tell you. And that's so that you can have it on a flat surface as opposed to that ridge. So you always want to mark out where that is. They always say measure twice, drill once. You can see that they have flipped the barrel on the side and they're sitting on the barrel. This helps the barrel from rolling back and forth. And it's going to allow you to drill straight down to keep that hole exactly where you need it to be. You're going about 3 inches from the top. This is going to be where you actually will attach the hose that will attach to your downspout. So again, the importance of keeping your barrel secure and level and steady, because it's heavy and you want it to be secure. Now with downspouts, we do have different sizes of downspouts. So you need to measure your downspout, because the most common kinds are either 2/3 of an inch or 3/4 of an inch. These diverter kits can fit in either of those downspouts. The one downspout type that will not work with this system are round downspouts. So some folks do have round downspouts. They do have diverter kits you can use for those. However, the earth-minded ones will not work for a round downspout. So that is something to be aware of. Let me get you back to my presentation. Okay. So that is on Butler County's YouTube channel, so that you can watch that video. I will also provide you guys the link with all this material at the end of the webinar as well, because it's helpful to see how that process of drilling into your barrel works. Now, you can also have some fun with your rain barrels, especially if you do go the route of, say, a repurposed 55-gallon drum. Sometimes they're not the prettiest. So we can make our rain barrels aesthetically pleasing by painting them. And the Cincinnati Zoo actually works and partners with one of our collaborators, an organization called Save Local Waters, and they do a rain barrel art project every year. Well, local artists will paint rain barrels. I mean, they just make some beautiful rain barrels. Typically, that the rain barrel art project kicks off, and they have a big auction where you can buy the barrels in conjunction with the Earth Day event at the Cincinnati Zoo. With 2020 being an abnormal year in all respects, they are still doing the rain barrel art auction. You can view the barrels on the web page and you can bid for them if you wanted to purchase a rain barrel that has some of this really cool artwork. But there's not going to be an in-person kind of reception this year. And that auction is going to go through July 28th. So you can find more information at savelocalwaters.org. And we can provide that web address to you guys as well. But let's say that you're artsy and you want to paint your own, because that's fun too. So basically, to prep, you want to clean your barrel. Vinegar is an excellent way to clean up your barrel. And then you do want to sand that barrel so that the paint will adhere and stick to the barrel. So you're going to sand and prime your barrel just like other surfaces that you might be painting. And then because these are, you can, depending upon how artsy you are, you can either stencil something on or you can freehand. I've seen people just put things against the barrel and then use outdoor spray paint and then remove it, and you've got a really cool image on your barrel. Because they're outdoors, in fact, yeah, in this picture here, that's what this person is doing. They just have a tree branch and they're going to use that as their stencil. Any type of outdoor acrylic paint or spray paint, obviously that can hold up to the weathering that your barrel will take, will work to paint these barrels. If you have a painted rain barrel, You might want to think about when you winterize and detach it, you might want to take it inside to store it somewhere. It can just help the aesthetic part of your barrel to stay longer. But some people have painted rain barrels and they leave it outside and don't have an issue. So it's kind of personal preference there. You do want to finish off that artwork though with a polyurethane in order to preserve that paint job though, just like anything that you might be painting outdoors. And then you're finished and you have not only a beautiful piece of art on your property, but it's a piece of art that is saving you money. It's saving the environment from different types of pollution. It's just really an all-around win-win situation, I think. So those are kind of all of our tips and tricks when it comes to rain barrels. You know, certainly what I would like to take time to see questions that maybe have come up in the chat that I can address. Have we had any?
We don't have any currently, so yes, if you have questions, please type in the chat.
And while we're waiting for people to think of about their questions, we did have a delay in our shipment of rain barrels that we're getting. Certainly, you know, we do apologize for that delay. We were hoping to have them in time for this webinar, but due to some issues at the plant that manufactures them, it's looking like mid-August is when our rain barrels will come in. Again, it's those 50-gallon rain station closed systems. If you are wanting multiple rain barrels or you're wanting a rain barrel, you know, soon, there are other places that you can purchase these style. I will say that a lot of places are sold out of the rain station style. My guess is that most of them are coming from the same manufacturer. I know that Butler County Soil and Water District, they do still have some available for purchase. And you can also look online at some different stores. They might be a little bit higher priced because you're buying that single barrel, but it would be a way to get a rain barrel now. If you go that route, be aware that you do not need a diverter kit. Those rain barrels will come with all of that stuff that you need in order to install a barrel.
Okay, so we have a couple questions. So I'll begin with Judy. She is asking, is it safe to use the water in a vegetable garden?
Yes. So, you know, that is a great use for rain barrel water. I mean, it's coming down, you know what I mean? It's chemical free. It's what would be watering your garden on a rainy day anyways. But it's a way for you to kind of store that water. So if we get some dry days, well, you still have rain water that you can use on that vegetable garden.
We have another one that came in. It says, my mom bought us a rain barrel with a top with a hole with a mesh. Do we need to detach it in the winter?
So detaching in the winter, I recommend in Ohio, because if it starts to freeze, you're gonna start to get wear and tear and potential cracking on your barrel. So even those open top ones, I would say to empty it. But it kind of depends on how you have it, you know, set up. You are welcome for that particular one. If you want to take a picture and email it to me, I'm happy to take a look at the picture to give you further advice on that individual question.
And Melissa's email is there at the bottom, which I think you all have anyway too. So we have another question. Has anyone ever hooked up a drip irrigation system to one of these rain barrels? I want to use it for my raised garden bed.
For the drip irrigation systems, you can. What you may have to do though is pursue that submersible water pump, because you might run into some issues as far as pressure when it comes to, because as your rain barrels are getting, you know, are emptying, you're losing pressure and you can get uneven watering at that point. So you would just want to look at how much pressure is coming out of your barrel and possibly add one of those water pumps to it.
And then we have another question. It says, can you add fish to turn it to aquaponics as well?
Ooh, so I know that I have heard of people doing that. I will say that I am not as familiar with adding fish to it. So I don't want to give any wrong information. But what I can do is I will look into that and I will try to send out some information in that regard. To whoever asked that question, if you want to shoot me an email with that question, I can do some follow-up on that for you. But I don't want to give you incorrect information.
There are no other questions in the chat, so.
Okay. Well, I really want to thank you guys. You know, this has kind of been a new experience for us at the Conservation District. You know, I'm so used to being able to see you guys face to face and interacting with you guys, but I am so glad that you joined us. I will be sending out a link to a very brief survey. If you have any feedback to give us about this presentation, we would love to hear how, you know, how it went, if you had any issues, things that you would like to hear more about. So I will be, after this webinar, I'm going to send out that survey link. It's like 2 or 3 questions, but we would love to have your feedback from it. And if there are no other questions, then I will say, have a great day. Thank you again. And I hope to see more and more rain barrels in use around Warren County. All right. Thank you, guys.